The sky above planet Tarnuk was dark with smoke. Bright flashes of light filled the air as human and alien weapons fired across the dusty battlefield. The ground shook with every explosion. All around, soldiers shouted, ran, and fell. It was the final battle of a long, painful war. On one side were the humans, tired, outnumbered, but still standing. On the other side was the mighty Zareni Empire, with tall, glowing warriors and machines that could fly and burn. The humans had only basic weapons, tanks, and courage, but they had held this position for 3 long days. Among the Zareni, a golden figure led the charge. Her armor shined even through the smoke, and her long silver hair flowed behind her. This was Princess Nilai, daughter of the Empress. She had trained 4 years in battle schools and had never been defeated. She was strong, proud, and believed her people were better than all others. She raised her staff, a glowing weapon of Zareni energy, and shouted in her language. Her soldiers followed her like fire chasing the wind. She believed the humans would break today. She believed this war would end here, but near the front lines. Behind broken metal walls and sandbags, a quiet human soldier stood watching. His name was Rafik. He was from Earth, from a small town near mountains. His eyes were tired, his uniform dirty, and his hands strong. From hard work. He didn't speak much, but when he did, people listened. He had no medals, no rank, just courage. Rafik had lost his brother and sister in the early attacks. He didn't hate the Zareni, but he didn't forgive them either. To him, they were like storms, dangerous, cold, and never asking questions. But today, he stood firm. The humans were few now. His squad was scattered, some injured, some dead, others still fighting. The command post had stopped replying. Maybe they were gone too. Still, Rafik stayed, guarding the trench, holding a rifle in his hand and a grenade on his belt. Then came the sound, a loud boom, louder than the rest. A Zareni energy bomb dropped near the center of the field. The blast threw metal, fire, and bodies into the air. Rafik fell back, coughing from the dust. When he stood up again, the world had changed. He saw shapes running through the smoke. One of them, taller than the rest, was stumbling, almost falling. Her armor was cracked, glowing light leaking from it. She looked around. Lost and alone, it was Princess Nilai. The explosion had thrown her far from her guards. She was bleeding from her side, and one leg did not move properly. She tried to walk, but fell to her knees. Then, with great effort, she began crawling toward the edge of the field, toward the human trenches. Rafik stared. He recognized the golden armor from the reports. His heart beat faster. Was this really her? The princess who led attacks, who burned human outposts, who ordered the bombing of his home? He raised his rifle and aimed it, but something stopped him. He looked closer, her face, pale and tired, her hands shaking, her breath shallow. She was not holding a weapon. She was not shouting orders. She was not a warrior now. She was just a girl, wounded, lost, alone. Rafik stood frozen. She collapsed, her body hitting the ground with a soft thud, just a few meters away. Silenced, Rafik lowered his rifle. For a moment, he thought about walking away, but he couldn't, not because she was royalty or important or even an enemy, but because she was alive, and he was human. He stepped out of the trench and walked toward her, slow and careful. His boots crunched on broken stone and dust. She looked up weakly. Her golden eyes widened when she saw him. She tried to speak in her language, but the words were soft and broken. He couldn't understand. She didn't have the strength to fight. He knelt beside her. Her body was warm, too warm. She was losing blood. Rafik looked around. No other soldiers were near. No one had seen her fall. He took his scarf and pressed it gently against the wound on her side. She winced, but didn't pull away. Her breath came a little slower, steadier. Her eyes met his. For a moment, neither of them moved. Rafik reached for his radio. "Command, this is Rafik," he said. "I have an injured alien, high rank. I think, need orders, double quotes, static. He waited. More static. No answer. He looked at the sky. The smoke was thick. The signal wasn't getting out. Or maybe there was no one left to answer. He sighed. Looks like it's just you and me, he said quietly. She blinked, her gaze still fixed on him. He wasn't sure if she understood. The battlefield around them was still dangerous. Explosions echoed in the distance. He had to move her. With care, Rafik lifted her into his arms. She was light, but her armor made it difficult. He carried her back into the trench and down a narrow path to a small shelter, a half-buried supply room, with stone walls and a metal door. Inside, he laid her down on a folded blanket. He opened a first aid kit and did what he could. He had treated many wounds before, his friends, strangers, even himself. He tied the cloth tighter, cleaned her cut with a burning liquid, and checked her breathing. Princess Nalai was still awake. Her eyes watched every movement, not with fear now, but curiosity. He tried to speak slowly. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. "Do you understand?" She whispered something, very soft. One word that sounded like "why." Rafik paused. He didn't know how to answer. Why did he help her? Because she looked weak. Because she reminded him of someone. Because he was tired of the war. He simply said, because it was the right thing to do. She blinked again, then closed her eyes. Outside, the battle still raged. But in that small room, there was only silence, two enemies, one war, and a choice that would change everything. Inside the narrow underground shelter, the air was warm and heavy. The walls were made of thick stone, built to protect soldiers from bombs above. A small light flickered in the corner, powered by an old solar battery. It wasn't much, but it kept the darkness away. Rafik sat on the floor, his back against the wall, holding his rifle across his lap. His eyes didn't leave the girl lying on the blanket. She was still. Her golden armor, once shining and strong, was now cracked and dusty. Dry blood marked her side, but the bleeding had stopped. Her breathing was slow, steady. She looked peaceful, almost like she was sleeping in her own home. But Rafik knew who she was. Princess Nalai of the Tsareni Empire, leader of 1,000 warriors, daughter of the Empress, the enemy. He had seen her face on screens before, strong, proud, fearless. The voice behind many attacks on human bases. And now she was lying here, wounded, saved by a human, saved by him. Rafik didn't know what to feel. He stood up and paced the room. His thoughts raced. Should he turn her in? But the radio still gave only static. Maybe no one was left to hear him. He looked at her again. Her face was pale, lips dry. She needed water. He took a bottle from his bag, lifted her head gently, and helped her drink. She coughed a little but managed to swallow. Her golden eyes opened halfway. She stared at him, confused and weak. He turned on a small translator device, something standard in human army kits. He spoke slowly. "You are safe. I won't hurt you." The translator repeated his words in the Tsareni language. Nalai blinked. She tried to speak. Her voice was soft, dry. "Why?" she whispered. Rafik hesitated. That same question again. He sat beside her, not too close, but not far. "You were hurt," he said, "and alone." The translator spoke. She listened carefully. "I am your enemy," she said, her voice shaking. "I know," Rafik replied, "but you didn't look like an enemy when you were bleeding on the ground." There was silence. Only the soft hum of the light filled the room. Nalai turned her head slightly to face him. "You could have ended me." "Yes," he said. "Why didn't you?" Rafik shrugged. "Maybe I'm tired of killing. Maybe I saw something different in your eyes." Nalai closed her eyes again. She was too weak to argue, but a small part of her, hidden deep inside, was curious. Hours passed. The sound of battle outside had grown distant. Maybe the fight had moved. Maybe the war was over. Or maybe both armies had destroyed each other. Rafik checked his supplies. One water bottle left, 2 packs of dried food, a half-broken flashlight, no working radio, and a wounded alien princess. He sighed. He gave her a few bites of dried fruit. She didn't eat much, but she nodded in thanks. Then she spoke again. "My name is Nalai." Rafik looked at her. He didn't expect that. I know, he said. Princess Nelai, her lips curved slightly, almost a smile. And you, Rafik? She repeated the name slowly. Ra-Feek. He nodded. It was strange. Just days ago, they would have fought to the death. Now they sat in the same room, sharing food, talking. He wanted to ask her so many things. Why did the Zareni invade Earth? Why did she lead attacks? Did she hate humans? But he said nothing. Not yet. It didn't feel like the right time. Later, as night came outside, the ground shook again. Distant bombs, still fighting. Rafik knew they couldn't stay here long. The air would run out. The food would end, and if either side found them, things could go very wrong. Nalai was sitting up now, slowly gaining strength. Her wound still hurt, but she could move a little. Her armor was broken, and her energy weapon was gone. She was no threat. Not now. She looked at Rafik. Your people. They are brave. He raised his eyebrow. You didn't expect that. She shook her head. The Empress said humans were weak, wild, and dangerous. Maybe we are, he said. But we're not easy to crush. I see that now. There was silence again. A strange peace filled the space between them. That night, Rafik couldn't sleep. He kept thinking. What would happen if they were found? Would human soldiers trust him after helping a Zareni? Would her people kill him on sight? And why did he care? He looked at Nilai, who had fallen asleep. She looked younger now, without her glowing armor and royal title. She was just a girl, maybe not so different from people he had grown up with. Maybe were made monsters out of everyone. He sighed and looked at the ceiling. Somewhere above them, stars were shining. Somewhere, his planet still turned. He remembered something his grandmother once told him. A good heart makes a person strong, even in the middle of war. Maybe she was right. Morning came, or at least he thought it was morning. There was no sunlight in the shelter, only the soft orange glow of his lamp. Nelai opened her eyes and sat up slowly. I need to return to my people, she said. Rafik didn't answer. I don't know what they will do to you, she continued, but I must go. He nodded. I'll help you walk. But we don't know what's out there. The battle could still be going. Nelai looked down at her broken armor. Do you trust me? She asked. Rafik thought for a moment. I don't know, he said honestly, but I trust what I've seen. And I saw someone who didn't want to die. Someone who didn't kill me when she could have. Nelai looked surprised. Then she smiled, a real one this time. Then we walked together. Rafik stood and offered his hand. She took it and rose to her feet, weak but steady. To enemies. One small shelter. And a world outside, still burning. But for the first time, they walked together. Not as soldier, an enemy, but as people. The heavy metal door groaned as Rafik pushed it open. A wave of dry air swept in, filled with dust and silence outside. The small shelter, everything was broken. The battlefield was quiet now, but the ground was covered with burnt machines, torn flags, and pieces of both human and alien armor. Princess Nelai stood beside him, leaning on a metal stick Rafik had found for her. Her golden armor was scratched and cracked, and her steps were slow. But she did not complain. She was a fighter, even when wounded. They moved carefully along the edge of the ruined trench. The bodies of soldiers, human and Zareni, lay silent. Round them, no birds, no wind, no sound, just the empty stillness of war. Nalai spoke softly. So much loss, Rafik nodded. Too much. They didn't speak again for a while. The battlefield no longer belonged to either side. It was just a graveyard now. Suddenly, the sky rumbled. In the far distance, the sound of energy fire returned. Aircraft buzzed through the smoke. The war wasn't over yet. We need to move, Rafik said. They'll be back soon. Nelai pointed to the west. There's an old supply tunnel beneath the field. My people built it during the first wave of war. If we can find the entrance, it may lead us away from this place. Rafik raised an eyebrow. You sure? She nodded. Mostly. I studied the maps. It's deep underground and unused for months. The entrance is hidden near the broken tower. They made their way toward The ruins of a black steel tower that had once been a Tsareni outpost. Now it was a twisted skeleton dot there. Behind a collapsed wall, they found the hidden door. It was heavy and covered with debris. Together, they pushed, pulled, and dug through the rubble. Rafik wiped the sweat from his face. This better not be a trap. Nilai gave a tired smile. If I wanted to trap you, I wouldn't have helped move rocks. The door finally opened with a sharp creak. A dark staircase led down into the unknown. Rafik turned on his flashlight. After you, Princess. Nilai gave him a sharp look but said nothing. She walked down carefully, one step at a time. Inside the tunnel, the air was cold and damp. The walls were smooth metal, covered in dust. Old lights flickered on the ceiling, some broken, some blinking weakly. They walked in silence for a while. Their footsteps echoed softly. This tunnel connects to a small base far to the south. Nilai explained. If it still works, we can find communication tools. Maybe even transport. Rafik nodded. And what happens then? You go back to your people? Tell them you were saved by a human. Nilai paused. I don't know. I don't even know if they'll believe me. Rafik glanced at her. Do you want them to? She didn't answer. Hours passed. The tunnel twisted and turned. Sometimes the roof was too low, and they had to crouch. Other times, small holes in the wall let water drip from above. They found an old storeroom. Inside were broken weapons, some food rations, and a few small energy cells. Rafik took a pack of crackers and offered one to Nilai. She looked at it suspiciously. What is this? Dry food, he said. Not tasty. But it won't kill you? She took a bite and made a face. You call this food? Rafik laughed. Better than starving. They sat on the floor, backs against the wall. For a while, they just listened to the silence. Nilai asked, Have you always been a soldier? No, Rafik replied. I was a builder. I fixed homes, schools, water pipes. She looked surprised. Then why fight? He looked down. Because one day, the sky turned red, and your people came. My town was burned. My sister didn't survive. So I picked up a rifle. Nilai lowered her eyes. I'm sorry. I was told your kind started the war. And I was told the same about yours, Rafik said. Maybe both sides lied. Nilai nodded slowly. I think we never asked questions. We just followed orders. They sat in silence again. No more words needed. Suddenly, the ground shook. A loud crash echoed behind them. Rocks and dust fell from the tunnel ceiling. Rafik stood up. That came from the entrance. They rushed back, as fast as Nilai could move. When they reached the entrance, their hearts sank. The ceiling had collapsed. Tons of rock now blocked the way out. There was no going back. Rafik stared at it, breathing hard. We're trapped. Nilai placed a hand on the wall. The rest of the tunnel is still open. If we keep walking, we may find another exit. And if we don't, then we keep walking anyway. Rafik smiled slightly. You sound like a human now. She gave him a tired look. I'm still Tsareni. They picked up their bags and continued. Ours turned into a day. They rested in another chamber, where old crates and boxes were stacked high. Nilai's leg hurt, but she said nothing. Rafik shared a can of soup, warmed on a small heating pad. It gave them both a little comfort. Nilai stared at the flickering light. Do you think this war will end? Rafik shrugged. Wars always end, but peace, that's harder. She nodded. I was trained to fight, not to ask why. My mother says questions are weakness. I think questions are the first step to truth, Rafik said. Nilai looked at him. Maybe that's why we lost today. He smiled. You're still alive. That doesn't sound like losing to me. She leaned back against the wall, eyes half closed. You humans, you're strange, Rafik chuckled. We think the same about you. For the first time, the tunnel didn't feel cold anymore. They didn't know what waited ahead. But they were no longer strangers. No longer just soldier and enemy. There was something else now. Something new. The tunnel stretched on like a never-ending river of steel and silence. Rafik and Nilai walked slowly, their shadows moving along the walls beside them. Their feet were sore, their backs stiff, but neither of them gave up. Nalai's leg was healing, but it still pained her with every step. She didn't ask for help. She didn't want to seem weak. But Rafik noticed. He watched how she limped slightly, how she paused when she thought he wasn't looking. Finally, he stopped walking and turned to her. "You need to rest." Nalai shook her head. "No, we need to keep moving. You'll fall," he said calmly. "And I don't want to carry you again." She gave him a small glare, but her lips curled into a tired smile. "Then I'll rest." Only for 5 minutes. They sat on a flat stone ledge beside the tunnel wall. Rafik opened his pack and pulled out the last of their water. Nalai accepted the bottle without a word and drank carefully. There was a long pause. Only the soft hum of old tunnel wires could be heard above them. Rafik looked at her and asked, "What was your life like before the war?" Nalai didn't answer right away. She looked at her hands, once strong, now scratched and sore. "I was born in the palace city of Zarin," she began. "Everything was silver and white. High towers, flying crafts, guards at every gate. I was trained from a young age to fight. My mother, the Empress, believes power is the only way to rule." "Sounds lonely," Rafik said softly. "It was," Nalai replied. "We had no time for friends. No time for dreams, only duty." Rafik nodded. "I used to fix broken things, pipes, doors, broken machines, simple work, but I liked it. I had a small home near the forest. My little brother would bring birds inside, and I had to chase them out." Nalai smiled at the image. "That sounds peaceful." "It was," he said, "until your people came." Nalai's smile faded. "I didn't want this war," she said quietly. "But I never had a choice." Rafik looked at her. "Now you do." She turned to him. "Do I? Even if I survive this, my mother will never forgive me for failing. And your people may never trust me." "Maybe not," Rafik said. "But sometimes doing the right thing means standing alone first." Nalai looked away. She didn't reply, but his words stayed in her mind. They walked again for several more hours. The tunnel turned sharply and led to an old maintenance station. Inside were rusty lockers, broken chairs, and a dusty table. They searched the room together. Rafik opened a locker and pulled out a folded blanket and to glow sticks. Not much, but better than nothing. Nalai found a small translator chip and inserted it into the side of her arm guard. A soft beep sounded. She tested it. "Do you understand this?" Her voice was clearer now, no longer relying on Rafik's translator device. He nodded. "Much better." She smiled. "Good. Then I can tell you you're wrong more easily." Rafik raised an eyebrow. "About what?" She pointed at him. "You humans think you're the only ones who suffer. But many Zareni soldiers didn't want this war either. We lost homes, too, families. I had a cousin who believed in peace. He was sent away for saying it aloud." Rafik sat down. "Then why follow orders if you knew it was wrong?" "Because in the Empire, duty is everything." She said. "Disobedience is weakness." He sighed. "Sounds like fear, not strength." Nalai leaned against the wall. "Maybe you're right." As they rested, Nalai began to hum a soft melody, something slow and sad. Rafik listened. "What is that?" "It's a Zareni song," she said. "A lullaby for children. My caretaker used to sing it when I was afraid." "It's beautiful," Rafik said. "Sing it again." She did. Her voice echoed through the tunnel, soft and full of memory. Rafik closed his eyes, letting the sound fill the space around them for a moment. The war felt far away. Then he asked, "Do you still fear the dark?" Nalai smiled faintly. "Sometimes, but not when someone is beside me." He looked at her. "You're not alone anymore." She met his eyes. In that moment, something unspoken passed between them. Not love, not yet, but trust. The first step. The next day, they found a fork in the tunnel to pass, each leading into deeper darkness. "No markings," Rafik said. "Any idea which one is safe?" Nalai looked at both sides. "One of them leads to the old Zareni base. The other might be a dead end, or worse." He handed her a coin. "Heads or tails?" She frowned. "We don't do chance games in the Empire." "Well," he said, flipping it. Welcome to Earth tradition. The coin landed. They took the right tunnel. As they walked, the air became colder. Strange sounds echoed, metal creaks, water drops, maybe something else deeper down. Suddenly, Nelai stumbled. Her leg gave out again. Rafik caught her just in time. She groaned in pain. That's it, he said. We're stopping here. She leaned on his shoulder. I hate this. I was trained to be strong. You are strong, he replied. Strong enough to let someone help. She didn't answer, but rested her head briefly on his arm before pulling away. They built a small camp near a corner of the tunnel. Rafik set up a weak heat lamp. Nelai wrapped herself in the blanket they found. As they sat side by side, eating the last of their food, Rafik looked at her. You know, if we survive this, what happens next? Nelai didn't speak for a long time. Then she said, I don't know, but I don't want to go back to who I was. He nodded. Same here. She looked up. Maybe we can build something new. Something better. He smiled. That's what humans do best. We build after everything falls apart. The light flickered. The cold stayed. But they were no longer afraid. Together, they had crossed the line between enemies and something more. Not love, not yet, but a beginning. The tunnel stretched forward into darkness, quiet and endless. Every step echoed on the metal floor. Rafik held the flashlight in one hand and walked ahead, carefully checking the path. Princess Nelai followed close behind, leaning slightly on the metal stick he had given her days ago. They had grown used to the silence. The sounds of war were far away now. Only distant memories trapped in smoke and fire. Their food was gone, and the last of their water had been used hours ago. But neither of them complained. They kept walking, driven by something deeper. Hope. Suddenly, Rafik paused. The tunnel had changed. The walls here were newer. There were control panels on the side, blinking slowly. A thick steel door stood in front of them, half open, covered in dust and dirt. This is it, Nelai whispered. We found the old base. Rafik nodded. Let's hope it still works. They pushed through the door and entered a large room. The ceiling was high, and the floor had old crates, broken screens, and metal benches. A few lights flickered weakly overhead. Nelai's eyes scanned the room. This was once a rest station. There should be a command room nearby. Rafik found a control board and pressed a few buttons. A small screen came to life, showing old maps and power readings. Systems are half dead, he said. But the signal line might still be open. He handed Nelai the chair. You know this place better than I do. She sat and touched the control panel. Her fingers moved across it with practiced skill. Strange symbols appeared on the screen. I'm trying to connect to the Aracom system, she said. If this works, we can send a signal. To your people? Rafik asked. To anyone still listening? Minutes passed. The air was tense. Suddenly, the screen flashed green. A soft beeping sound echoed through the room. I have it, Nelai said. The system is weak, but I can send a short message. She typed quickly in her language. Then she stopped and looked at Rafik. What should we say? He thought for a moment. Tell them to survivors one human. One's already found each other and chose not to fight. Nelai smiled. That's not how commanders send messages. It's how people send them, he replied. She nodded and pressed the button. The message flew into the stars, short and simple, but powerful. Now, they could only wait. They spent the next few hours searching the base. Most of it was abandoned, but they found a small supply room. Inside were sealed food packs, a working water tank, and to sleeping pads. Rafik handed Nelai a pack of fruit paste. She looked at it, then at him. This still tastes better than your dry crackers. He laughed. Hey, those crackers saved your life. She opened the pack and took a bite, barely. As they ate, Rafik looked around the room. Do you think anyone will come? Nelai sighed. Maybe, or maybe no one heard us. And if no one comes, she looked into his eyes. Then we find our own way out. He smiled. Good answer. The next day, they explored deeper into the base. One hallway had collapsed, but another led to a small tunnel with old maintenance signs. They followed it, hoping it might lead to the surface. As they walked, Nalai asked quietly, "If your people come first, will they shoot me?" Rafik didn't answer right away. He looked ahead. Thinking, maybe, he said, "But I won't. Let them." She looked at him. "Even if it means standing against your own people?" He stopped walking and turned to face her. "I stood against you to protect my home. Now I'll stand with you to protect what's right." Nalai's eyes softened. "Then I will do the same." Later, they returned to the main room and checked the screen. The message line was still open, but no reply had come. Suddenly, they heard something. A sound soft and distant. A voice. Then another. Rafik grabbed his rifle and looked toward the hall. Voices echoed, getting closer. Human voices. Then came the sound of heavy boots. "They're coming," he said. Nalai stood tall, though her legs still hurt. "We must decide now. What do we do?" "We tell the truth," Rafik said, "and stay together." The door opened. A group of human soldiers entered, their weapons raised. One of them, a tall officer with a scar on his cheek, saw Rafik and shouted, "Drop your weapon." Rafik lowered his rifle slowly. "I'm not your enemy." Then they saw Nalai. "Zareni, step away from him," a soldier shouted. Rafik stood in front of her. "She's not here to fight. She's the princess," one of them said, "the one who led the attacks." "She's also the one who didn't kill me," Rafik said. "We were trapped. We survived together. She could have ended me many times." The officer looked at Nalai, then at Rafik. "Why should we trust her?" "Because I do," Rafik said. "And I've seen the war. I've seen the hate. But this is a chance for something different." There was silence. Then the officer lowered his weapon. "We'll take you both, but command will decide." Nalai stepped forward. "Then let them decide. I have nothing to hide." They were taken to a safer location, a neutral camp where wounded humans and captured Zareni were being treated, a place far from the front lines. Nalai was given medical care. Rafik stayed beside her, watching over her like he had in the shelter. No one knew what would happen next, but the message had been sent. Two enemies had chosen peace, and that was the beginning of something greater. The air in the neutral camp was different. There were no loud guns, no flying machines, and no falling bombs. Instead, there was silence, broken only by soft footsteps and distant voices. A white flag stood high on both sides of the border. Inside the medical center, Princess Nalai lay on a clean bed. Her wounds had been treated. Bandages wrapped her arms and legs, and a soft light warmed her skin. Human doctors had helped her. Not soldiers, not enemies, just people who wanted peace. Rafik sat beside her bed. His rifle was gone now. His uniform was torn, but clean. He looked tired but calm. "You should rest," Nalai said softly. "I can't," he replied. "Not while others decide what happens to us." Nalai nodded. "They're afraid." "I understand." Just then, a tall man in a dark uniform entered the room. His face was serious, but not angry. "Rafik." The man said, "My name is Commander Hillen. I'm from Central Earth Command." Rafik stood and gave a short nod. "Sir." The commander looked at Nalai. "And she is the princess of Zareni." "She is," Rafik replied. "But she's not a prisoner." Commander Hillen stepped forward and folded his hands behind his back. "You both sent a message. A bold one. Do you know what kind of storm it caused?" Nalai sat up slowly. "We sent the truth, and that truth may change everything." Hillen said, "But only if we let it." Later that day, Rafik and Nalai were taken to a secure building on the edge of the camp. Inside was a small council chamber. 3 human officers sat on one side. 2 Zareni leaders sat on the other. A table of peace between them. Nalai entered first. Walking slowly with the help of her stick, she wore simple white clothing, no crown, no armor, just like any other survivor. Rafik followed, calm and steady. The room felt quiet. One of the human officers, a woman with short hair, spoke first. "You are Princess Nalai of the Zareni, yes?" "I am," Nalai said. "And you, soldier, you are Rafik of Earth's 3rd Defense Unit, yes?" The woman nodded. "We have read your message. You say you chose peace, even during war. We did not choose to fight each other, Rafik said. We were told to. And yet, said any leader, you found each other on the battlefield and did not kill. Why? Nilai took a deep breath. Because I saw something in him. He protected life. He helped me, even when I was his enemy. And she saved me, Rafik added, when she could have left me to die. The older any counselor leaned forward. So what do you want now? We want to talk, Nilai said. We want this room to become a beginning, not another battle. Silence filled the room again. Then Commander Hillen spoke. The war has taken many lives. But if the enemies can stand together like this, maybe the war has gone too far. But the people are angry, another officer said. Many lost families. They want justice. Justice is not always revenge, Rafik said. Sometimes it's building something better. A Zareni leader looked thoughtful. And if we agree to peace, how do we tell our people? Show them us, Nilai said. Let them see that two soldiers, one human. One Zareni can choose a new way. The human woman stood. You asked for something big, but not impossible, Rafik said. After the meeting, Nilai and Rafik were taken back to their rooms. The sky outside was golden with sunset. Birds flew across the horizon. For the first time in weeks, it was quiet. They sat on a bench near the fence of the camp. You think they'll agree? Nilai asked. Rafik looked at the sky. Maybe not today. Maybe not even tomorrow. But something changed today. She looked at him. What do you mean? They saw us not as enemies, but as people. That's the first step. Nilai smiled. Then we walked the next steps together. The next morning, a special message was sent across both worlds. It was not a threat. It was not a demand. It was a story. A short video showed the moment Rafik found Nilai in the battlefield ruins. It showed how he carried her, how he cared for her. It showed how she protected him in return, how they both found an old tunnel and survived underground, choosing kindness over war. People watched it in silence, on both planets, in homes, in schools, in bunkers. Some wept. Some grew angry. Others began to hope. In a small village on Earth, a mother whispered, maybe peace is possible. In the Zareni city, a young boy asked, why did they help each other? And in many places, for the first time, enemies began to talk. 2 days later, the council called Nilai and Rafik back. This time, the room was fuller. New faces sat at the table, peace builders, healers, young leaders. One of them stood and said, we are forming a group, human and Zareni, together. Not for war, but for healing. We want you to help us, said another, as symbols. As guides, Rafik looked at Nilai. She gave a gentle nod. We will, she said. And so began something new. Not an agreement signed with weapons, not a treaty forced by fear, but a path opened by two survivors who chose kindness in the darkest moment. From that point on, people started meeting, talking, working together. Of course, not all anger ended, not all pain disappeared, but a seed had been planted, and where there is a seed, there's always a chance for something to grow. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, painting the sky with soft orange and pink colors. Birds sang from tall trees. Near the camp, the air was fresh, clean, and hopeful. Rafik stood outside the small meeting hall, watching as people arrived from both Earth and Zareni worlds, soldiers, scientists, leaders, and ordinary citizens all gathered to witness a new chapter in their shared history. He felt a nervous excitement. This was no longer a battlefield. It was a place of peace. Nilai walked beside him. Her wounds had healed. Her golden armor was replaced by simple clothes that showed her as a leader, not a warrior. Her eyes held a calm strength. They had come far from the day she collapsed in his arms, wounded and afraid. Now, they stood side by side, ready to speak. Inside the hall, the crowd quieted as Nilai stepped to the front. She looked at the faces before her, people who once saw her as an enemy. She took a deep breath and began. I'm Nilai, Princess of Zareni. I came to Earth with weapons and anger, believing that strength was the only way to survive. But I was wrong. Her voice was soft but clear. I found kindness in a place I never expected. In a human named Rafik. Rafik stepped forward and nodded. We were enemies on the battlefield. He said, but we chose to protect each other instead of fighting. The crowd listened closely. Nelai continued, war takes many lives. It destroys homes and dreams. But it does not have to be the end. We can choose another path. There were quiet whispers among the crowd. Some faces showed hope, others showed doubt. After her speech, the leaders of both worlds came forward. Commander Hillen spoke first. Today, we take the first step toward peace. Not just between armies, but between people. Azar any elder added, our worlds have suffered, but together we can heal. A young girl from Earth, holding her mother's hand, smiled. Can we be friends now? Nalai looked at her and nodded. Yes, we can. Rafik smiled back. We will build a new future. Together. Days passed, and the peace talks continued. Both sides shared stories, dreams, and fears. Scientists worked together to repair damaged cities. Farmers shared seeds and knowledge. Children played in fields once scarred by battle. Rafik and Nalai worked as ambassadors, traveling between their worlds. They spoke of hope, forgiveness, and the power of kindness. One evening, as the sun set, Nalai and Rafik sat near a quiet lake. Do you remember the tunnel? Nalai asked softly. Rafik smiled. How could I forget? It was dark, cold, and full of fear. But it led us here. Sometimes, Nalai said, we must walk through darkness to find the light. Rafik reached out and took her hand. We'll walk together, he said. Months passed, and the peace grew stronger. A new council formed, made up of humans and Zareni. Working side by side, together, they rebuilt schools, homes, and parks. New technologies were shared. Music and art brought joy to both worlds. Nelai and Rafik's story became a symbol not just of survival, but of hope. They visited towns and cities, reminding people that peace was possible, even after war. One day, on a hill overlooking a new city rising from the ruins, Nelai looked out at the stars. Do you think our people will truly change? She asked. Rafik stood beside her. I believe they will. We showed them a new way. She smiled. A way built on trust, not fear. He nodded. A future where enemies can become friends. As night fell, they watched the sky together. Stars shone bright, shining like promises of peace. The war was over. A new dawn had come.